And by the way, I'm going to give it to you straight up. This easily beats anything I've heard from AudioQuest. The Niagara 5000, the 7000, the PS Audio P20. Well, I'm sure by now you all know I have a love affair with Gryphon amplifiers. Having owned every single power amplifier they have ever manufactured, with the exception of those that came before I entered this hobby. And you've heard a lot about this power conditioner from Gryphon. This Powerzone has some interesting things that I need to call out. Join me on this review of the Gryphon Powerzone 3.20. It's been a minute since I've reviewed a component because, quite frankly, I haven't had a lot of motivation for reviews as of late. But today, I definitely have more motivation to share with you my time, my opinion, when it comes to this Gryphon Powerzone 3.20. Gryphon has been known to build some of today's best power amplifiers. I am very vocal about the fact that I love their amplification, the looks, the feel, the power, the resolution, the liquidity, and of course, Class A sound, which is what I'm in love with. And so I was very shocked when I heard that Gryphon had released a Powerzone, which is a power conditioner. They call it a revolution, not an evolution, when it comes to what a power conditioner is all about. Throughout the past 2.5, 3 weeks, I have been playing with this Gryphon Powerzone. And I gotta tell you, it's been a very, very interesting product for me because I never expected for Gryphon to give us what is inside this box, to give us the performance that this particular product delivers. Now, before I get started and I give you my feedback when it comes to my time with this product, make sure you check out my website, jaysaudiolab.com, for great top-end home audio electronics. I have a lot of high-end stuff there all the time. Anyway, the product in front of me is the Gryphon Powerzone 3.20. So let's talk about what is included with this 3.20 Powerzone. Around the back, you can see that there are 2 banks of outlets. You have on the left side a bank with 4 outlets that combined can give you a total of 20 amps, and the same happens to be on the right side for a total of 40 amps. 40 amps is what you can actually draw from this device. Now, Gryphon on their website states that you can even run Gryphon Apex monoblocks off of this particular 3.20 Powerzone. And these amplifiers, as you know, are very power-hungry amplifiers. Typically, devices like this tend to choke amplifiers, which is why you've heard me say many times to plug your amplifiers into the wall. But Gryphon actually built this to work perfectly with amplification. Now, I will say, in full disclosure, I did not have the time to plug in my Gryphon Apex monoblocks because of the configuration of my system. Cables don't reach. I have a hard time plugging them into this unit, but I will give you some feedback from someone who owns Gryphon Apex, who happened to try this device into his Gryphon Apex. As far as the weight of this device, it's about 25 pounds, not too heavy, really solid build quality, aluminum. And overall, it's not a very bulky piece. So typically when you see these power conditioners, they come in at over 50 pounds oftentimes. For example, the Storm Tank 2500 MK2 is approximately 105 pounds. They're very heavy pieces, okay? This is going to be perfect for those of you who don't want to be lugging heavy components the way I do. So if you're looking for a power conditioner that doesn't weigh a lot, I recommend for you to look into this Powerzone. All right, so let's get started with the pros of this Powerzone. I started to evaluate this piece by plugging in my Gryphon commander right behind me, and also the rest of my electronics, my CH Precision 1.2 DAC, my router. I connected Esoteric K1XSE Super Audio CD player. All of these devices went into this unit. Okay, I did not, again, I repeat, I did not connect my Gryphon Apex monoblocks. But even without that, I can give you some feedback about what this piece did for my system. The first thing I noticed when I plugged this piece into the system is a ton of clarity. It felt as if someone opened up the curtains. Everything sounded clear and clean. There was no veil of any kind. I was very impressed how clean sounding my system became. The mid-range focus in my system is absolutely phenomenal when using this Powerzone. It was right here where you see my chest, always locked in. It actually felt as if it went from being up here to being more right between the speaker, in line with my head. I thought that was pretty cool. I've never heard a power conditioner that can do that. The focus of this component, a lot of nuance was very, very apparent. Instrumentation now really took a whole new level of resolution. The placement of all the instruments was just easier to spot. There was absolutely no vagueness of any kind. If the guitar was here, you heard it loud and clear where it needs to be. It wasn't like diffused where you felt as if the instrument was somewhere here in space. No. With this, you know exactly where it was. Another pro actually that this system really shocked me with was the amount of low volume resolution that it had. I felt as if I didn't really need to crank up the system higher in order to enjoy the unit. I was able to enjoy a very nice balanced presentation at lower listening volumes. And I know many of you actually have to crank up your system in order to enjoy it. I'm going to tell you, when using this Powerzone, I didn't feel that I had to blow my eardrums in order to hear all the nuances and details that the music has to offer. It was really, really easy to perceive the subtleties and the nuances, even at low volumes. So if you love listening to music at low volumes, I think you're going to really appreciate this piece. Now, I did say to you that I did not have a chance to connect my Gryphon Apex monoblocks because simply my system configuration, it would be too difficult for me to accomplish with my system. There is too many things that I have to unplug, and it was just too much for me to take on. So I did reach out to one of my clients who happens to own a Gryphon Apex and who happens to have a Powerzone at the moment. He's actually evaluating this Powerzone at the moment. He told me that in his system, he felt that there was a whole new level of bass heft, tightness, and articulation. The bass was taken to a completely higher level. He's never heard a level of bass articulation until he plugged in his Apex stereo into this piece. Now, you heard me talk about the improvements when it comes to bass articulation, the clarity, the detail, the separation, and the stereo imaging being absolutely next to nothing else I've ever heard. And by the way, I'm going to give it to you straight up. This easily beats anything I've heard from AudioQuest, the Niagara 5000, the 7000, the PS Audio P20, and many other power conditioners at the moment. As a matter of fact, let me show you something else. Over here, I have the Shanyata Typhon, another type of power conditioner. Yeah, because I got it like that. Anyway, so these couldn't be more different. These two devices are completely different sounding devices. And I'm going to tell you that none of these are perfect. None of these. Let me explain a little further what I mean by that. See, with the Powerzone, you get a lot of clarity, detail, spaciousness, stereo imaging, okay? The nuances, the placement of the instruments are just very well laid out for you. And this is a perfect segue for me to talk about the cons of the Powerzone. One being the fact that it isn't cheap. It is $17,500 for this one, for this particular. The 3.20 retails for $17,500. And then the other sibling, the 3.10, is $14,000. I honestly do not think that the 3.10 is worth it. You should just go for the 3.2 because you're going to gain a lot more current delivery. And to me, this is going to never choke your system. If you have big amplifiers like I do, the 3.2 is really the best one to buy. The one that could easily serve you for many years to come without having to worry about having power limitations. Again, do not buy the 3.1, buy the 3.2 if you're going to buy a Powerzone. Yes, folks, it is about system matching. All of this is about system matching. And a few days into my listening session, the clarity that I alluded to, right, the clarity that this piece has, which is absolutely intoxicating, began to wear on me. Meaning, I detected brightness at times. I detected a little bit of this, not edginess, but this extreme amount of detail that could easily be overwhelming on your ears if you listen to your system loudly. That happened to be the case with me. However, as I said to you, maybe if I had bought some aftermarket power cords for this, I wouldn't have been feeling that way because I was using stock power cords. Maybe if I used a different type of speaker cables or XLRs, I could have fixed that issue. What I did though, in my situation, I went ahead and used my Gryphon Apex monoblocks in medium bias instead of high bias. High bias on these amplifiers and everything else plugged into the Powerzone resulted in a little bit of edginess for me at times. Now, it didn't happen all the time, but it happened more often than not. So by me switching these amps into medium bias, I happened to help and offset some of that brightness that I was feeling. So what I'm trying to say is, if you have a system that is naturally too bright, you may have to do some extra adjustments after you buy this piece. You might have to do some extra fine tuning, in my opinion. You may have to buy perhaps a different power cord for this piece. Those are things that you got to be always aware of, okay? But that's no different than what we do when we buy different speakers, right? You got to buy different speaker cables sometimes, different amplifiers. But in my opinion, it is no fault of the unit itself. It's just the fine tuning. Especially when you listen at loud volumes. The clarity and this extreme resolution might get to you. But again, this is no fault of the unit. It is your job to make sure you accommodate the component for success. You may want to order Gryphon's own Vanta power cords for this device. Now, the final con on this device is, again, see my earlier comment. You might have to end up buying two good power cords, 220 amp power cords, because the device does take 220 amp power cords. So you have to keep in mind that it doesn't necessarily just end with the purchase of this device. There's always going to be additional enhancements that you're going to have to make to your system in order to make this unit do the things that you want it to do. I mean, without a doubt, the unit is phenomenal. I think it's been one of the best power conditioners to enter my lab, but nothing is perfect. Nothing is ever perfect. Everything here has flaws. These Gryphon amplifiers, I love them, but they are too damn heavy. Some of you may call that a flaw. It is what it is. So let me get back to this unit. This is the Typhon, okay, Shunyata. And I'm gonna do a quick comparison between both. Now this one MSRP is for around, I think it's like $8,000, $8,500 US. But if you see the back of this piece, check out how many outlets you get. You get two right here, right? And then you get this is a 30 amp outlet. So that's all you get with this piece. All you can do here is connect a total of 3 devices. That's it. It's pretty pricey. You're gonna need at least 2 or 3 of those to round out your system. But sonically speaking, the reason why I find them so different, polar opposites, I should say, The Shunyata is going to be a little warmer, a little more relaxed sounding. Definitely very nuanced, great bass. Actually, the mid bass on the Shunyata was a little better than the Powerzone, if I'm being honest. The Shunyata gave me a little more punch there, a little more meat on the bones when it came to the mid bass. But the Powerzone essentially took the cake when it came to the resolution and the clarity. The Powerzone's clarity specifically is superior to the Shunyata's. But the Shunyata presented a little more of a warmish presentation. I would call it a little more analog-like, if that makes any sense, that the Powerzone didn't deliver. So the Powerzone is almost like listening to a very clean, clear CD, right? Where everything has a lot of resolution, this window-like transparency, clean sounding. That's the Powerzone, as opposed to the Shunyata that had more of an analog, warmer type of presentation. So both of them are doing some tremendous things for different systems. You have to find the right device that suits your needs. You can't go wrong with the Powerzone. I gotta tell you, once you hear it, you might be in trouble. You might be $17,500 short in your bank account, because it is definitely one of those units that will make you question the need to buy anything else. Hell, if I could, I'd keep both of them and my Strom tank, but you know I can't keep everything forever. It's impossible for me to do. I gotta keep giving you my raw, uncut opinion when it comes to... Well, Gryphon, I gotta tell you, Gryphon, you have definitely outdone yourselves. I mean, you have done here, in my opinion, what other manufacturers that have been doing this for longer, meaning building power conditioners, you have, in my opinion, immediately surpassed many of these companies with just your first try at power conditioning. I'm gonna applaud you, a round of applause to you for creating a very special product. And I have absolutely zero reservations. This is 100% Jay's Audio Lab approved. Folks, that brings my review to an end. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you want to see more ultra high-end components, if you're interested in buying ultra high-end components, make sure you check out my website, jaysaudiolab.com, for more great high-end audio components. Until the next one, peace.